Thank you, brother, for that beautiful prayer. Let's continue to remain in God's presence with the same attitude of prayer. Only the Lord can minister to us, and we need to be there with a prepared heart. As I mentioned, this is a 4-part series with the theme, Only One Life, Don't Waste It. We had our first session last Saturday on the particular topic, the radical call of Jesus Christ. And today our focus will be on true discipleship. I just want to connect today's session with the last one. During the last session, I pointed out to you, during the time of Jesus Christ, large multitudes of people followed him for various reasons. Okay, we saw that. But Jesus wasn't really impressed by these large crowds following him. He did not come for numbers, right? He was looking out for a deeper commitment in those who are following him. Of course, the majority, they were not for it. They came to Jesus. They wanted something from him. They got it. They didn't enter into a kind of relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, the whole relationship aspect, okay, is what I call as discipleship. In fact, the Gospels very clearly separates these two terms. The crowds are always called as crowds. From the beginning of Jesus' ministry until his death, crowd, multitude, they remain the same way. The disciples, the minority, a small group of people who understood that Jesus Christ of Nazareth is in fact the Messiah, the one who can deliver me from my sinful nature and then connect me to my God, my Creator. No, it's not just realizing that. That's only one aspect of it. Recognizing him as the Messiah is just one aspect of it. The second aspect is, now I have realized who Jesus Christ is, and I want to have a relationship with him. Because that's what he called people for. He said, come, follow me. He looked at Matthew, he said, come, follow me. He looked at Bartholomew, he said, no, come follow me. Thaddeus, come follow me. Simon Peter, come and follow me. Andrew, come and follow me. Sometimes, I've heard people say, only 12 people followed him. That's not right. The 12 were made as apostles, but there were many other disciples, may not be majority, men and women who understood who Christ was and willing to have a close relationship with him. And today I want to talk about what it means to have a close relationship with Christ. Okay, what it means to be a true disciple of Jesus Christ. Now, let me start with this question, okay, for you to think. A question to ponder over. Now, why do you think the people who followed Jesus Christ in great numbers could not become his disciples? Why do you think? What could be the reason that many who followed Jesus Christ could not become his disciples? That's an important question for us to ponder this evening. Why? Even today, my dear brothers, sisters, there are a lot of people who get attracted to Jesus Christ. Many people get attracted to Jesus Christ. Okay, many are even willing to believe that Jesus Christ is a very powerful God. But then, many, they don't want to follow him as his disciples. Why? You know why? True discipleship is very demanding. To really become a disciple of Jesus, it is very, very demanding. Now, we live in a world, where we don't want to have any demands kept on us. We want to be free people. We want to have our rights. We want to have our lives, isn't it? We don't want anybody to exert their claims on us, isn't it? But Jesus was very demanding. So let me also add a word. I'm glad that when our dear brother prayed, he said, Lord, if any of us are under false security, enable them also to know what is true salvation. That's a beautiful prayer. You know why? Because I have found the lot of people who live with false security, not really knowing that they are saved. No, they just assume. Because you know what? They have prayed the sinner's prayer. Someday in their lives, they have prayed the sinner's prayer. They have signed a pledge that I am now a child of God. Right? So they actually believe in that sinner's prayer or the hands that they raised during an altar call. But I want to say, today, if you listen to what Jesus Christ has to tell you, he would say, following me is not easy, my dear child. Brothers and sisters, in Luke chapter 14, verse 25 to 33, you may read this little later when you have time. It's a lengthy passage. If you read through that, already people are following Jesus Christ. Many were following him. And Jesus looked at them and said, it's like applying a speed breaker. It's like throwing something before people as a stumbling block. Hey, don't rush into following me. I want to tell you something. I want you to listen to what I have to say. Then you decide whether you want to follow me as my disciples. In fact, in Luke chapter 14, Jesus says, you count the cost. And he actually picks up two illustrations. Okay? If anybody who wants to build something, construct a tower, would he not sit first and think to himself whether I have all the resources to complete this? Okay, the second illustration, if somebody is going to war with another king, would he not sit and count whether he has enough resources, army personnel, to go ahead with the battle? And then Jesus says, similarly, don't rush into becoming my disciples. It's not about raising your hand. If Jesus was here today, he would look at us and say the same thing. It's not about raising your hand. It's not about saying the sinner's prayer. I want you to listen what it means to become my disciple. Brothers and sisters, there are plenty of passages in the Gospels where Jesus clearly laid before his followers the conditions which they need to first understand and then accept before following him. We don't have time to go through all those things that Jesus said, but I want to pick up three most important demands that Jesus placed before anyone who wanted to follow him. In fact, you'll be surprised the crystal clarity with which Jesus spoke to his followers. It's amazing. Categorical statements. He said, if anyone want to follow me as a disciple. Many of his statements starts with that. If any of you want to follow me as a disciple, here is what I want you to understand. You know what? Crystal clear, meaning categorical statements. There is no way you can now misunderstand that. Very plainly he said, these are the conditions. These are my demands. If you agree to these demands, you can be my disciple. The first thing, what he said? This is core. In fact, this is hardcore. You know what he said? The first thing he said was, I need your first love and your foremost love. You can't have anybody in your life more important than me. What is the meaning of first love and foremost love? Simply, it means there should be no one in your life more than me. There should be no thing in your life that is more than me. എന്നെ കാട്ടിലും നീ സ്നേഹിക്കുന്ന വേറൊരു ആൾ നിന്റെ ജീവിതത്തിൽ ഉണ്ടാകാൻ പാടില്ല. എന്നെക്കാട്ടിലും നീ സ്നേഹിക്കുന്ന വേറെ എന്തൊരു കാര്യവും ജീവിതത്തിൽ ഉണ്ടാകാൻ പാടില്ല. He made it very plain. If you want to be my disciple, I want your first love and foremost love. Brothers and sisters, it's very, kind of, when you listen to something like this, it's not really, very pleasing. Like, imagine those crowds which came after Jesus for their own wants. Now here Jesus wanted something from them. He said, okay, I want something from you. Can you give me your first love, foremost love? Brothers and sisters, I want to turn your attention to a couple of verses. This is Luke chapter 14, verse 25, 26, and then Matthew 10, 37. Let me first read the first one. Now great crowds accompanied him, and he turned and said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Hey, how many of you would like to hear this? And then he went on to explain, clarify it. Does it mean to hate my parents? Does Jesus want me to hate my parents, my brothers and sisters? Does he really want me to hate my own self? Is that what Jesus meant? No. He clarified. In another instance, he made it very clear what he meant. In Luke 14, Matthew 10, 37, whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Brothers and sisters, I want to ask you, who in the world would not love someone in life? It may be your parents. It may be, your spouse, right? It may be your children. As a father, I know how much I love my children, right? As a child, you know how much you love your parent, isn't it? Now here is Christ demanding something core to your life. He says, you can't love any other relationship more than me. That means, I should be first in your life. Very simple, right? And you know what? Sometimes I really I think how clearly or carefully Jesus worded some of his statements. Because there are people who may not love their parents much. I've come across a lot of siblings who don't love other siblings. It is possible. But Jesus included something very important, his own life. If you love your life more than me, you cannot be my disciple. So the question for us to think this evening is, if you really want to be his disciple, or if you think that you're already his disciple, my question for you today evening is, do you love anything more than Jesus Christ? It may be your career, it may be your job, it may be your dream, your desire, your ambition. Do you love anything more than the Lord Jesus Christ? The Bible very clearly says, in fact, what Jesus meant is real. I tell you, what Jesus meant is very, very real and literal. Don't try to find any kind of a spiritual meaning to what Jesus said. He literally meant what he said. There were 3 men who came to Jesus. They really were attracted to Jesus. They wanted to follow Jesus. In fact, the Bible very clearly says they wanted to follow Jesus. Luke chapter 9, 57 to 62. Okay, Luke 9, 57 to 62. 3 പേര് വന്നു. 3 പേർക്കും കർത്താവിനെ അനുഗമിക്കുവാൻ ഭയങ്കര താല്പര്യമായിരുന്നു. ഇൻഫാക്ട് 2 പേര് കർത്താവിനോട് അവർ തന്നെ അങ്ങ് പറയുമായിരുന്നു. Okay, but there was some problem. They wanted to follow Jesus. They loved Jesus, but they had a problem. What is their problem? I will put it up now. The problem was they couldn't give their first love. They couldn't give their first or foremost love. Look at these verses. One person said, Lord, let me first go and bury my father. He said, no, let me first go and bury my father. In other words, no, let me do my duty to my father. I love my father. I want to follow you. I love you, Jesus, but I also love my father. I need to do my duty to my father. Give permission for me to do that. And look at his reply. Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and preach the kingdom of God. It's like saying, no, I know about your life. I know your father. I know what's happening with him. My thing is, if you really love me and keep me as the first person in your life, you do my commandment. Look at the second person. Lord, I will follow you, but let me first go and bid them farewell who are at my house. Did you look at the word? Notice the word first. That was their problem. That was their only problem. They loved Jesus. They wanted to follow Jesus. But the only problem was they couldn't give their first. My dear brother, my dear sister, I want to honestly ask you, have you really given your first love and foremost love to Jesus Christ? Or is he one of those people whom you love? You know why I'm saying this? Let me give you an illustration so that you get what I'm trying to tell you. I want to talk about a young girl. She was once upon a time a young girl. Her name is Isabel Kun. Born and brought up in Canada. She studied in British Columbia University. Born and brought up in a good Christian family. Parents were godly people, even involved in missions. There was a time Isabel realized God wanted her to be in a faraway place in China, serving him in a particular people group. When she went home and shared this with her mother, as I said, her mother was a godly person, in fact. But her mother said, hey, Isabel, I have taken yesterday night, I searched and I found this out. Her own story, that book, which in PDF form is available for anyone to download and read, Isabel Kun's biographical anecdotes. If you go to China, it will be over my dead body. I will never consent. Can you imagine this? A young girl who wants to please God, and now from her own family, from her own mother, she has this obstacle. If you want to go to China, it will be over my dead body. Ende shavam adu nee kaaleduthu vechittana angane povaanengil ponda variyollu. Hey, think about this. Any person who loves his or her mother, think of the struggle this young girl would have gone through. Took a time. Her mother was opposing this. Again and again, she said, no, if you go to a faraway land, who will look after us? If you actually go away from us, Who will marry you? Who will take care of you? Questions after questions. But this girl was very clear. I am a disciple of Jesus Christ. I have given my first love and foremost love to Jesus. No, in fact, no, her own words, if you read through this, I won't read it. I was in a dilemma. I had surrendered my life to the Lord, and I was earnestly desiring to obey him faithfully. I felt he had called me to China Inland Mission. I had prayed for an opportunity to train for his service, and he had so wonderfully answered, but my mother. Can you imagine, brothers and sisters? This is demanding. To be a disciple is very demanding. Because sometimes it'll tear your heart apart. For her, she was able to take that decision. I have made the decision long ago to accept Jesus Christ as the Lord of my life. I will. Even if my mother would not allow me, I will. എന്നെ കേൾക്കുന്ന ആരെങ്കിലും മാതാപിതാക്കൾ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ I also want to say this to you. Sometimes I have also come across young children who are really committed to the Lord. Come and share this with me. With pain, my own parents, they're not allowing me to do what the Lord is showing me as his will. Discipleship is demanding. Who said it's easy? The Lord actually took her to China. She served among a people group called Lisu people group as a teacher. Her life story is amazing. You know what? Later, her mother passed away. Even before, she could accomplish few things, her mother passed away. But before her death, mother actually told one of her friends, I was wrong, my daughter was right. Let me go to the second demand, hardcore demand of Christ. He looked at his disciples and said, or he looked at those who wanted to follow him and said, if you want to follow me, you ought to deny yourself. Luke chapter 9, verse 23. I want to read this. Luke chapter 9, verse 23. And he said to all, if anyone would come after me, let him, let her deny himself, deny herself, and take up his or her cross daily and follow me. What is the meaning of the word denying yourself? I want to actually clarify this. A lot of us we have a misunderstanding of what it means. Jesus is not at all talking about self-denial. You know what is self-denial? In every religion, there is an element of self-denial. I'm sure you all know in Kerala, during the months of December and January, you find a lot of people traveling all over from India, to Kerala to visit Ayyappa. And they are also involved in acts of self-denial. During a particular time, they don't eat meat, right? They walk barefoot. They wear a particular colored dress, right? Those are all acts of self-denial. But Jesus is not talking about self-denial, meaning what? You set certain things in your life, and then you decide to deny it for the sake of Christ. That is not what Jesus is talking about. Jesus is actually talking about denial of self. It sounds the same, self-denial and denial of self, but it's not the same. You know what is denial of self? Now I will explain this to you. Brothers and sisters, I'm sure we all know these two symbols, right? In the social media world today, We are very familiar with these two, likes and dislikes. Of course, these days, no, YouTube has enabled dislikes. We all know that, right? Likes and dislikes. Shall I tell you, for many people, this is their life's philosophy. Everything that they do in their life is actually based on what they like, what they dislike. നിങ്ങൾ ചോദിച്ചു നോക്ക്, ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് സംശയം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ, tomorrow you meet somebody in your office or in your school, you call somebody, you ask them some simple questions. Why did you buy this phone? You know what will be their answer? I liked it. Why did you choose this course? I liked it. Why did you marry her? I liked her. Okay, why did you work for this company? I liked it. I liked the environment. I liked this. I liked that. Okay. The same way, they'll also say, I don't like these things. I don't like to eat this food. I don't like to wear such a dress. I don't like to do certain things. Entire life revolves around likes and dislikes. Right? Brothers and sisters, I tell you, trust me, if I give you a sheet of paper and ask you to write your likes, your dislikes, I'm sure you'll be able to fill that. These are some random stuff I picked them from Google. What some people like, what some people don't like. Okay? The same way, each one of us, we will be able to write down what we like, what we don't like. Life is all about likes and dislikes. But you know what Jesus meant? If you want to be my disciple, he said, you have to deny yourself. What does it mean? And I tell you, you know what? Many, even well-meaning Christians, you know what? Many people, according to them, Jesus is like a genie. Genie is an Arabian character you find in folklore. പലർക്കും യേശു ക്രിസ്തു എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഒരു ജീനി പോലെയാണ്. Now, what is this genie all about? Whatever you want, you call out to genie. The genie will accomplish all your desires. Unfortunately, Jesus is not your genie. നമ്മുടെ ആഗ്രഹങ്ങൾ, നമ്മളെ മനസ്സിൽ നാം ചിന്തിക്കുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെയും സാധിച്ചു കൊടുക്കുവാൻ വേണ്ടിയല്ല ഈ കർത്താവിൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് നമ്മൾ വന്നത്. If you are thinking that you wanted to become the disciple of Jesus Christ just because he will fulfill all your dreams and desires, brother, sister, you got it wrong. ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് ആരും തെറ്റിദ്ധരിക്കരുത്. In my 25 years of ministry, close to that, I've come across lots and lots of people who have not understood what I'm speaking this evening. Jesus Christ is not the genie of your life. He doesn't want to be the genie of your life. He wants to be the Lord of your life. What is the meaning of the word Lord? Someone who rules over every aspect, including what you like, what you don't like. You know what? Think of this. It's just an imagination. Just an imagination. Capability undallo. We all can imagine. And I want you to imagine right now your moment of salvation. Your moment of salvation. Okay, it may be in your Sunday school or after you finish Sunday school. I don't know about that. But just imagine that. There was a transaction. Whether you recognize this or not, whether you have understood this that time or not, there was a transaction involved. And the transaction, imagine this. you're meeting Jesus Christ. No, this is only imagination. You're meeting Jesus Christ, okay, for the first time. And you go to him and say, Jesus, I realize I need you in my life. I need you in my life. I realize, no, I am messed up. Because of sin in my life, I'm messed up. All my goals and purposes, everything is messed up. My future is also messed up. And I want you to come and save me from this. I want you to come and deliver me from this. And Jesus says, yes, I am willing, my child. I am willing. But you know what? On the other side, after he listens to you and promises you, I will save you, I'll be your savior, he will also place his demand on you. Will you also accept me as your Lord? Will you also accept me as your Lord? My dear child, will you also accept me as your Lord? എന്താ അർത്ഥം എന്നറിയോ? Once you enter into a transaction with Christ, you actually told him, you will be the Lord of my life. That means, you cannot make any decision. You cannot do anything in your life without consulting his desires. From now on, from the moment you enter into a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ, it means you're not your own anymore. If you were your own, then you have no problem. ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് മനസ്സിലാവുന്നുണ്ടോ? If you were your own, no problem at all. You live according to your likes and dislikes. But now you have become his. Therefore, what happens? You place it before him. ആഗ്രഹങ്ങൾ പാടില്ല എന്നല്ല ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത്. I am not saying you should not have any desires. By nature, we all have desires. Right from what you want to eat for breakfast to some of the major decisions of your life, like marrying someone or your career. Now, with regard to all these things, we all have desires. I have desires. I have dreams. I have desires. Jesus is not saying you should not have a desire. He's not saying you should not have a dream. You should not have a purpose in life. You should not actually dream about success. No. All that he's asking you is, child, would you leave that to me? Give all your likes and dislikes to me. And let me guide you. Let me guide you. I know what is good for your life. You may not realize this now, but child, I know what is good for your life. With regard to marriage, with regard to career, with regard to where to live, what to buy, I know what is good for your life. Would you allow me to decide that for you? You know what is our theme verse? And I come to that now. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 15. And he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died for them and was raised again. I want to say something that can be very offensive right now. And I want to say this. You know what? The moment you have become a Christian, the moment you have decided to follow Jesus Christ, you have lost the right to live for yourself. ഞാനല്ല പറയുന്നട്ടോ. These are the words of Paul. He said, and he died for all, that those who live now should no longer live for themselves. Who would really want to leave their rights? നമ്മളെല്ലാം റൈറ്റ്സിന് വേണ്ടി പ്രൊട്ടസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നവരാ. That's our nature. Our fallen nature is we fight for our rights. Right? We want our way. And here comes Jesus saying, if you want to be my disciple, it's not about your way. I want to ask you, ഒരു കാര്യം പറയട്ടെ. Sometimes we even with regard to the word God's will, ദൈവഹിതം എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്നത്, sometimes it really pains me. No, you do whatever you want to do. If it works out, you consider it God's will, and then you take life as it comes. Did you really go to the Lord and ask him, Lord, should I do this? Should I take up this? Did you really do that? That's my question. I'm not asking you, did you really use the jargon? No. Let's get rid of this jargon. You know what is that jargon? Spiritual jargon. Ellam Deivahidamana. Deivahida prakaram nadannu. Please, don't do that. Did you really go to God with an open mind and ask him, Lord, these are the desires that I have. Would you approve that? Would you guide me with that? Have you asked God for that? പലപ്പോഴും നമ്മൾ എന്താ ചിന്തിക്കുന്നതെന്നറിയോ? മക്കളെ, ഞാൻ പറയുന്ന ഒരു കാര്യം, I know there are a lot of young people listening to me. Sometimes you know what we think? We think, no, God is up there and he is there to fulfill all my dreams and desires. I'm not saying he's against your dreams and desires. There was one question, right? The question was, can't I have a good life? Who said you can't have a good life? I'm not talking about poverty gospel. Neither am I talking about prosperity gospel. There's just one gospel. And what is that? The Bible makes it very clear. You accept him as the Lord. That means you have lost the right to live for yourself. You have denied yourself. From now on, it's all about his desires and his dislikes. You place it before him and let him guide. In which all areas, I want to say, my dear children, my dear brothers and sisters, Christ should be the Lord of every aspect of your life, not just what we call as spiritual. Please, he's not the Lord of your Sunday. He wants to be the Lord of every aspect, minute aspect of your life, your family, your career, your health, your financials, your education, your recreation, your relationships. He wants to be the Lord of everything. I remember 20 years, more than 25 years ago, when I was a student in the college, a man of God challenged me with a statement. He said, Jesus Christ will either be the Lord of all or not at all. ഒന്നെങ്കിൽ ഇവൻ ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ എല്ലാത്തിന്റെയും കർത്താവായിരിക്കുവാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കും, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒന്നിനുമില്ല. It's a very powerful statement. Jesus Christ will either be the Lord of everything in your life or not at all. Now you tell me, how many would really like to follow a person who is so demanding? ഇപ്പം നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാകുന്നുണ്ടോ? Gospels വായിക്കുമ്പോൾ, when you read in the Gospels, not many followed him as disciples. Now you understand why? If Jesus had continued, just healing people, giving whatever they wanted and saying, no, all of you can be my disciples, wow, he would have had the entire region within his reach. But he wasn't. Demanding. Think about it. Brothers and sisters, now as I said, what about your desires? What about my dreams and desires? Should I sacrifice it for Christ's sake? Okay? Can't I have a life of my own? നല്ല ചോദ്യങ്ങളാട്ടോ. ഈ ചോദ്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് വരാനുള്ള കാരണം എന്താണെന്നറിയോ? You know why sometimes we ask these questions? Because we have not understood who he is. We have not understood this loving God of the Bible. Hey brother, hey sister, think of this. If you believe that this God of the Bible, whom you trusted, is a good God, is a loving God, the one who created you, the one who was willing to give himself to redeem you, don't you think that his plans, his desires, his purposes for your life will be something great? നമ്മൾ പലപ്പോഴും എന്തോ പേടിക്കുന്നറിയോ? I have come across a lot of people who are fearful. If I yield to Jesus Christ, he will ask me to do something that I don't want to do. Hey, is that really true? Have you understood who Christ is? If Christ is the one who brought you into the world, if God is the one who brought you into the world, and if he has promised, I have plans for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, how could you doubt in his good intentions for you? Think about it. I want to share a story here. This is from this book. And the word came with power. The story of a lady by name Joanna Shelter. She was a Wycliffe Bible translator late in her life. But you know what? Her story is just heartwarming. She was born and brought up in the US, a South Carolina girl who grew up with all her American dream. Even today, we talk about the American dream. She was somebody who was born and brought up in the US with that American dream. You know what was her dream? When she grew up, her dream was, to be like her mother. Her mother was a nurse. She had seen her mother all her life. She loved that nursing job. So she thought, no, when I grow up, I want to be like my mother, a nurse, working in a good hospital, married to a handsome man, have a lot of kids, build a big mansion on the outskirts, have a big farmhouse. And then literally, you know what she dreamt? When she used to look outside the window, seeing cows grazing on the meadows, that was her American dream. When she had become a Christian, a disciple of the Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord said, my dear child, that's not what I want you to do with your life. ദൈവം പറഞ്ഞു, ഇതല്ല എൻ്റെ ഉദ്ദേശം. നിന്റെ ജീവിതത്തിന് വേണ്ടി ഞാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്ന അതല്ല. It was a battle. It was a battle. Imagine all her cherished dreams on one side. On the other side, here is God asking her to do something else. She battled with this for quite a long time. One day, she took her journal. She had the habit of writing journal. Ratri kadakikku pomba journal ezhudum. One day she wrote down, I let all my dreams die. I let all my dreams die. എൻ്റെ ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ സ്വപ്നങ്ങൾക്ക് ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ ഒരു ഫുൾ സ്റ്റോപ്പ് വയ്ക്കുക. She went on to do what the Lord wanted her to do. I want to cut short her story here. In fact, I had the chance of meeting her once when she came to Bangalore. In her book, how she ends her life, that's what I wanted to point out to you. I want to read this. I have never quite figured out how to bring God glory, but I have learned to surrender my dreams to him. And he has made the reality of living according to his plan even better than my greatest dreams. തന്റെ ജീവിതത്തിലെ ഒടുവില് തനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായത് ആ സഹോദരി പറയുക, yes, I had dreams. When I surrendered my dreams to him, finally what God made out of my life, it was even greater, better than my greatest dreams. If any of you are worried, if I give my life to Jesus Christ, like what this brother is saying, no, would he not make a mess out of my life? You don't know who God is. You don't know who God is. If you're thinking fearfully, you haven't understood who this God is. I tell you, my dear brother, my dear sister, you learn to give your dreams and desire to God. And then you see what he makes out of your life. In the end, I tell you, you will say the same thing. What he made out of my life is something greater Much, much greater, even beyond my wildest dreams. I tell you, I'm a testimony to that. Born and brought up in a village, to mission parents, the kind of life I lived, the kind of life I live right now. I'm not talking about material stuff. Please don't get me wrong. The kind of life, satisfied life, the kind of purposeful life I live, I tell you, it's much beyond what I could have ever dreamt of. You don't have to fear. If God wants you to do certain things, which is against or contrary to what you have been dreaming of, don't fear. He has got something better, much, much better than you can ever make out of your own life. Let me go to the last thing, and I won't take much time. The third one, Jesus' greatest demand was, he said, do you have a willingness to carry your cross daily? He said, just because you follow me as a disciple, you may have to face a tough time. In fact, it was a warning. It was a warning. See, I tell you, when Jesus said, carry your cross, see, that time, he himself was not crucified. To have a kind of a spiritual meaning to what he meant, he was alive. He was not crucified. The meaning that today cross has in the Christian circle was not still applicable when he said these words to his followers. He said, if you want to follow me, you have to carry your cross. You have to be willing. What does that really mean? Now, I will touch upon this, God willing, in the next session. Take a stand. There are times in life where Jesus would really demand you to take a stand for him. As time is running, I don't want to talk much about that, but I'll continue, God willing, during our next session. But here, I want to close with just one challenge. Does it really look very demanding? Yes. Is following Jesus Christ as disciples easy? No. Because look at this. He says, I need your first love and foremost love. You can't have anything more than me in life. You should deny yourself. No rights. It's all about what I have decided for you. And he says, no, you have to take a stand for me. Sometimes no. Does it really sound pleasing? Certainly no. Who would want to follow this Jesus? Who would really want to follow this Jesus Christ to be his disciples? If you are wondering, brother, sister, if you are really wondering, or if you're even thinking to yourself, this is too demanding. I want you to consider this. Consider what? The cross. What do you see there? If you think these demands of Jesus Christ, something very difficult for you to accept, I want you to take a look at the cross. What do you see there? What do you see there? The creator of the heavens and earth, taking the form of a human being, literal body of flesh and blood. He hung on the cross for your sake and my sake, to save you and me, to give you better life, to take us to heaven one day. When you think of this love of God for you, then you know what? These demands of Jesus Christ will not look too difficult. If you really understand what Christ has done for you and me, his demands will not look too difficult. You know what? That beautiful hymn, I just want to read that. It's a beautiful, I'm sure we all have sung that hymn several times in our churches. When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Lord of glory died, Our richest gain we count but loss, and pour contempt on all our pride. And then you know what? The last stanza it says, where the whole realm of nature asks, that where an offering far too small, love that transcends our highest powers, demands a heart, life, or all. And Christ demands all these things from you. Remember, He's already done. He's done something you can never repay. You can never repay. My dear brother, sister, with all your life, you will never be able to repay what He has done for you on the cross of Calvary. This is what men and women of God have understood in the past. And I'm going to conclude here with a just 3-minute video about this man, a man called C.T. Studd. He made this beautiful statement. If Jesus Christ be God and He died for me, then no sacrifice can be too great for me to make for Him. He gave up everything, literally, he gave up his wealth, he gave up his life, prime life. He gave it to Christ. He wanted to do what God wanted him to do. And somebody asked him, hey, Studd, how could you sacrifice so much in life? You sacrificed your wealth, you sacrificed your career, you sacrificed your health. How could you do this, man? His reply was this: if Jesus Christ be God and He died for me, then how could I ever repay Him? If Jesus Christ is God and He died for me, no sacrifice can be too great for me to make for Him. May the Lord really enable us to be true disciples. Over to you, dear brother.